Hello everyone, my name is Nick and welcome if you're new. Sorry I haven't uploaded in quite a few weeks. I have been sick and also quite a bit busy with work. I do have a full-time job and that does take up quite a bit of my life. But I am back today to talk about my favorite new plants of 2019. I think technically only two of these plants are new plants as of like the last year or so, but all of these plants are ones that haven't been available in plant shops until very recently, if not this year. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This first new plant of 2019 has definitely been around for quite some time. However, it hasn't popped up in plant shops until very recently. It is called Hoya Poobah Calyx. So it's a type of Hoya or wax plant, but it's a little bit more different than the standard Hoya you're going to see in stores typically, which is Hoya carnosa. I think I've talked about this before, how generally when people order Hoyas in plant shops, they come as carnosa. So this is quite a different type of Hoya right here. You can see that the difference between Hoya carnosa, which I'll pop up a little blip of it on screen right now so you guys can see how different it looks, than this plant right here, which foliage is much more elongated. Hoyas are typically identified by their bloom, so they're not typically identified by their foliage, and their foliage looks very, very similar usually. However, this Hoya Poobah Calyx, as I said, has quite more elongated leaves than your standard Hoya carnosa. So that's how you're going to be able to tell them apart in stores if you do find one. My cat's playing with the Hoya strands that are hanging down. Muffin, stop. There are a few other species of Hoyas other than Hoya carnosa that you can find at plant shops. However, I find that Hoya Poobah Calyx is going to be the most readily available one other than carnosa. So if you're looking for a little bit more variety and you don't want to order online and spend a lot of money, then definitely Hoya Poobah Calyx is the way to go. There's a few other types of Hoya Poobah Calyx. There's actually many, many types of Hoya Poobah Calyx. I have no idea what the variety of this one is, but I have another one right here with me. Pardon me as I grab this other plant. Its foliage is a bit more bright lime green, and it has a bit more of the silver splashes on the leaves, as you can see. So really a wonderful plant. I love the variety that the Hoya Poobah Calyx carries. So really, really interesting plant. I haven't had them flower for me. In order for Hoyas to flower, I hear that they need to be quite root bound, and they also need to have long strands or long vines. So the Hoya Poobah Calyx that I have on the floor right now has a few long vines, so we'll see how it grows this summer. I'm not expecting anything, but I also hear that you need to give your Hoyas quite a lot of light for them to bloom. However, I usually keep my Hoyas quite a bit far back in my home because my home gets a lot of light, and if I keep my Hoyas in the windows, I find that the tips of them brown and die back. So in order for them to stay green and healthy like this one, I need to keep them a little bit more in the shade. So let me know if you guys have any different experiences with that, but that is how my Hoyas grow for me. The second plant we're going to talk about today is one of the ones that I believe is actually new as of the last few years. It is a variant of the species Peperomia albovitata. It is called Peperomia Arana Verde. And I think this plant is so wonderful because it looks like this awesome combination of the Pilea peperomioides, which is a very popular plant right now, and the Peperomia caparata, which is also called the ripple peperomia, which is probably one of the most common peperomias that you're going to find when you go into a plant nursery or garden center. So I just really think this plant is wonderful. I think that's probably what they were going for when they were cultivating this plant, and they did a hell of a job because it is just so awesome. I remember seeing it when I was in Florida at TPIE, and then when I had come back to the shop, I had ordered plants while I was away, and I had ordered assorted peperomias, and when I came back to the shop, this Peperomia Arana Verde right here was sitting in the greenhouse, and I was like, well, I know I'm bringing this home with me because I didn't think I was going to be able to get my hands on these for a while. So now they're pretty readily available in shops, and if you can't get them at your shop, I recommend asking your plant shop if they can find it, because it's been pretty easy for me to find as a buyer at my plant shop. So really, really cool plant. I think this is going to be the new plant as far as like the whole like Peperomia or Pilea peperomioides. I think this just has such a better look to it, and yeah, it's been quite a prolific grower for me. As you can see, it's been quite full. However, peperomias are a bit more of prolific growers in the winter time, so you're going to get a lot more growth on your peperomias in the winter than in the summer, which is actually quite wonderful because most of your plants are going to be growing more actively in the summertime. So while your other plants are sleeping, you have something else to watch grow. This is a plant I have never seen before until about a week or two ago, and it just really blew me away. I couldn't believe it. So it is a variegated lipstick plant, or I believe Aeschynanthus radicans variegata, or alba variegata it would be. This is a little bit of a different variegated lipstick plant that I normally see. So I've been able to get variegated lipstick plants in the past at the shop that I work at, and I've seen them at other places, but the variegation on them is a little bit more cream, like yellow color variegation, a little bit more dulled down. This is like a white variegation. It is so pretty. I try to not spend that much money on plants. I try to, you know, keep it in check, as we've talked about in the past. But I saw this and it was just one of those moments where I was like, I'm buying it. So I had to bring this home with me because I had literally never seen it before. And it's just so wonderful. Aeschynanthus, or lipstick plants, are actually in the Gesneriaceae family, I believe it's pronounced. So they're Gesneriads. So Gesneriads are like African violets, Apicias, Primalinas, which are Asian violets, which I do have one of, which is a really wonderful plant. So they're known for their flowers over their foliage. However, I think this plant's probably known a little bit more for its foliage. But I don't have any flowers on this right now, but the lipstick plant flowers, if you Google it, will have a beautiful lipstick shape to them, and they're usually a gorgeous red color. However, I've gotten some other types of Aeschynanthus in at the shop that have had like yellow flowers and orange flowers, so I really don't know what kind of flower this will get. However, it looks just like a variegated lipstick plant, plain lipstick plant, so I'm assuming it's just going to have regular red flowers, but we will see. Otherwise, a really gorgeous plant. I cannot believe that I'd never heard of this before, or at least seen this type of plant, so you can understand why I had to scoop it up. Plus, it's huge. It's in a like 8-inch or 10-inch hanging basket, so it's a pretty sizable plant. So I'm not mad about it, and I have it sitting atop of my new shelf, just starting to trail down. So I think it's going to be pretty happy there. It already seems to be pretty happy, even though it's only been there for about a week. So we'll see how things go. This next plant has really risen to the top of my personal favorite list recently. It is a Monstera Spa Peru. I think you're also going to see this plant called Monstera carstenianum, which is just a misnomer. This plant is actually unidentified, hence why it's called Monstera Spa. The spa means species, and the Peru means that it's found in Peru. So a really fun plant. Monsteras are incredibly easy houseplants. Monstera deliciosa is definitely the most widespread known Monstera, followed by Monstera adansonii, which is the Swiss cheese vine. However, this is a bit of a different Monstera. This one does not have the fenestrations or holes that the plant is typically known for. This one just has more of this reptilian corrugated leaf. And I just really have fallen in love with this plant. I saw it on Instagram a few years ago when I first started doing the plant Instagram thing, or even well before then actually, and I just fell in love with it, but you could only find it in Europe until the past few months when it just started popping up here in the United States. This is one that I've had for a few months, but I also have gotten one recently that I showed in my last video that you can kind of see behind me underneath the grow light back there that's on a totem. But really a wonderful plant, and it's been a really easy grower for me. I keep this one under my grow light in my bedroom, and each of these vines has grown at least 2 leaves, if not 3, during this growing season, which has just started. So really incredible fast grower. I'm expecting this one to grow quite a bit, and I think I'm going to leave this one to trail since I already have my other one climbing up the totem. So yeah, I really enjoy this plant. There's so many different names for this plant. I think I've been seeing people finding it as like philodendron green goddess and like green galaxy. There are so many different like misnomers that have been popping up in nurseries. So look for this shape and you're in good hands. If it's mislabeled, it's probably going to be a little bit more inexpensive, which is a good thing because these plants can cost quite a bit of money. So yes, just a heads up if you are looking for this plant, it is typically not inexpensive. However, you could find it inexpensive if you find the right place. So yes, Monstera Spa Peru, a really awesome new plant and a wonderful easy grower. If you are looking for something a little bit more different and like out there, but that is still very easy to grow. So just like how the last plant was a more out there Monstera, this is a more out there pothos. So this is a Pippinum pinnatum cebu blue. So your more standard pothos or your golden pothos is going to be a Pippinum aureum, which I'll show you guys a photo of right now in case you don't know what I'm talking about. But this is a really easy plant since it is very closely related to the golden pothos, which is one of the most wide-known easy plants out there. And this plant, just like the Pippinum aureum, does trail really wonderfully and quickly. In fact, I didn't even know that this plant was this long until I had pulled it out for a video I did like a month ago, ago, and I noticed that the vines are like a foot plus long, so that's really great because I have a lot of plants, so I don't really pay that much attention to every single one, so they really do wow me sometimes when I pull a plant out and I see how much it has grown. So I was just really taken back by this, and it has just really caught my eye because of that. I got this plant probably not even a year ago. I haven't had it for that long. I got it from Steve's Leaves when we did an unboxing together, and this was just like one of the plants that was just taken off in the whole unboxing that I did. Actually, I feel like this is definitely the plant that has grown the most that I had gotten from them. So really, really wonderful. In fact, I had seen some things online that you can have these plants grow up a totem and then they'll start to split, because the Pippinum pinnatum is like a plant that's known for the fenestrations or the holes that it gets in the leaves, or more so splits, like more how a Rhaphidophora splits. Like this plant right here, how it gets like these like splits with like that aren't connected. More so that than the Monstera deliciosa, which is more like inner fenestrations. I really don't water this plant that often at all. I probably water it once every like 10 to 14 days, and I try to stay around that range. However, when you do let pothos go a little too long, they do recover really, really well. In fact, my golden pothos, I usually just kind of let them wilt before I even water them, because then it ensures me that I'm not gonna overwater it and then get some yellowing leaves, because just like I said, I do have a lot of plants, so I'm not exactly on top of when I water everything. So it's just my way of knowing, hey, it's time to water this plant and I'm not gonna lose a bunch of leaves when I water it. So yeah, that's something I really care for about these plants. However, I do stay a little bit more on top of my Cebu Blue, since it is a little bit more of an out there pothos now that I've been paying more attention to it. So yeah, really, really wonderful plant. Really been enjoying this one and the color that it has, because it's quite a bit different and more eye-catching than your other plants that we have in our homes. This next plant on the list is the other one that I believe is actually new, and it is a Peperomia Frost, which is a cultivated variety. And this one has been happy as a clam growing in my home. You can see it's even flowering for me right now. I got this one a few months ago, a little bit after I went to TPIE, because that's where I first saw this plant, because they were showcasing it there as a new plant, which is why I believe it's new. But I've been really, really enjoying watching this one grow. I actually keep it on our dining table, and it's the only plant I keep on our dining table because it's a pretty dark area and things don't grow very well there. However, this Peperomia Frost has been killing it. It's still in its nursery pot. I usually leave my more like succulent-ish peperomias in their nursery pots. So my Peperomia Frost, my Peperomia Argyrias, which is the watermelon peperomia, my Peperomia obtusifolias, I keep those in their nursery pots just because I just like to leave them be. I think it's just a little bit easier, and I have killed a few of them in the past after I've taken them out, so I just kind of leave them be at this point. I think it's just an easier way to do things. So I just stage them in other pots like this, and it works out really well. So I've talked in my last video about the taco test, which is how I tell when it's time to water my peperomias. Sorry for all the noise that's going on outside. I usually just find a nice developed leaf. I usually avoid the ones that are still developing because they are still going to be a little bit flimsy, but I like to go down to a nice leaf and I give it a little bit of a squeeze, and if I try to fold it up like a taco shell, then and it doesn't budge, it's barely budging. Like this one, I'm trying to fold it up and it really isn't budging at all. So I know this plant's fine, it doesn't need any water. In fact, if I watered it right now, I would probably rot it out and kill it. So I don't want to water it, and once this leaf really starts to lose this succulence that it has, I know it's time to water. So that's like how I swear by like most of my peperomias, and how I just know when to water them without having to stick my finger in a bunch of soil, because that's a lot of work. So I just like to take it easy and use the taco test. So really foolproof way to take care of my peperomias, and really helps me out and saves me time during the day. So definitely recommend it. But yeah, this plant, Peperomia Frost and the Arana Verde, and there was another one that I actually do not have that was called Peperomia Pearl, were 3 peperomias that were showcased at TPIE as new plants for 2019. So I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know if they've been around for a long time, or if they just literally cultivated them in the last year or so, or if they've been doing it for a few years to, you know, get them up to speed or up to snuff so that they can be sold. So I really don't know what the whole deal is with that. They were just shown at TPIE, the Tropical Plant International Expo that's held in Fort Lauderdale every year. I did a video on it this year, so if you want to check it out, I'll put a little link up in the screen. It's just really interesting that they're always cultivating new plants, and so we don't even know what we're going to see next year. So there's going to be some new plants cultivated, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to be coming in the future years. And the last plant we're going to talk about today is probably the most fun one of all. It is String of Dolphins, also called or known as Senecio peregrinus. So Senecios are like the string of bananas, the string of pearls, the string of beads, all of those things. Also, wax ivy Senecio macroglossus is another Senecio I grow in my home. But this is definitely the newest one on the market and the most fun one for sure. Because as you can see, the leaves literally look like little dolphins jumping out of the water. However, when they get a lot less light, I've noticed that some of my lower ones kind of look a little bit more like manta rays. So it is string of mostly dolphins, but a few string of manta rays going on here. However, this plant's just really cool. I've been having a really, really easy time growing it. However, you need to have enough light to grow this plant. It is a succulent, so I will say string of pearls working at the plant shop is like the #1 plant that people come in and say that they kill. So I just am really wary about, letting people spend money on a plant that they might go home and kill. So I usually always warn people that when you're planting a string of things plant, string of pearls, string of beads, string of bananas, string of dolphins, what have you, we highly recommend putting them into a terracotta pot specifically, because they drain really, really well, and they also wick out the moisture insanely well, which is overwatering is typically the biggest problem that people have with these plants. And finding a terracotta pot that the nursery pot basically just fits into, so you really don't want to upsize this plant too much. You want to stay pretty close to what this plant has been growing in, because they do have quite shallow roots to begin with, and you want to put it in your brightest window. I do mine in a south-facing window, which is the brightest you can go indoors. However, I would say a west-facing window will be fine. I just probably wouldn't push it on an east-facing window or a north-facing window. However, I'm sure it's possible, but if you have a grow light, or a really, really powerful grow light preferably, you could definitely still grow this plant in your home if you do not have the adequate natural light. And finally, I always say to water this plant and the other strings of things plants when they start to get dull. So typically these plants, they're very shiny. If you look close up at this plant, you're going to see that there is really a natural shine to these leaves that this plant has. And then this plant's going to lose that shine and get quite dull when it's time to water. So I find that those tips to be a very foolproof way to take care of any sort of string of things plant. More so the Senecios. I'm not really considering string of hearts in this. That's a different care area. But yeah, really, really easy plant as long as you just know the proper care, which is very, very easy. But I really like the string of dolphins because it's a bit more blue than the string of pearls. So when I have them both hanging up right next to each other, they really are clearly different plants. So they look really, really wonderful. But I have found the string of dolphins, as you can see, to be a really, really prolific grower. It really just has taken off. Senecios are another one of those plants similar to peperomias that's going to grow more actively for you in the wintertime. So just keep that in mind, that this plant is not going to grow as much in the summertime. It's still going to grow, it's just not going to grow as much. Think about how much your philodendrons grow in the wintertime. They still grow, but they really don't grow that much. So this is basically the same thing for these plants and the peperomias. So I think that's quite wonderful, as I said earlier, because while your other plants are sleeping, these plants are growing. So I really, really enjoy that. Alright, thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video and letting me just chat to you guys about plants. You guys know I always love to just ramble about plants for a very long time. I will hopefully be doing this every week as I like to do, but my goal I will put out there and tell the world is that I do at least 2 videos a month. I am a very, very busy person with my life and my work and this and just everything, so I can't do this full time as of right now, but I really would like to be able to chat with you guys. That being said, I would really love to do a Q&A video where you guys ask me questions, and specifically about plants, but I would happily answer appropriate questions about my life. So yeah, I would really like to do a Q&A video as the next video. So anybody who's still watching, feel free to leave your questions down in the comments, and I will consider those for the Q&A video that I will hopefully do next week, if not the week after. So yes, thank you guys so much for joining me for this video today. The goal was to learn a new plant or just see something new, so I hope that you did learn about a new plant today and that there is a new plant added to your wish list, because there are so many new plants that are popping up on my availability lists at work that I'm so excited about. So there are plenty more than the ones I just talked about today. So thank you guys so much again for watching. If you don't already, follow me at phillyfoliage on Instagram, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!